Hello and welcome to our latest and greatest edition of Better Together Arizona. I am your host, Angela Hughey. I am super excited for today's very fascinating discussion about AI and the increasing role it is and really will play in our lives in the near and continual future, right? Super excited to be joined by Minky Kernacs. You're the CEO and co-founder of Mercurio Analytics, which is an Arizona AI company. And then you're also the chair of the Arizona Technology AI Committee. And that's how we were introduced. I reached out to Steven Zoustra and he said, you must meet Minky. So I'm really looking forward to this important conversation on the role technology plays in increasing our public discourse. But I think before we get started and really get into the weeds, Minky, it would be great if you just introduced yourself to our audience and told them all about it.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Minky Kernacs. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mercurio Analytics. We are a GovTech company, and I'm also the chair for the Arizona AI Ecosystem Committee, where we are all about facilitating and sharing knowledge and creating innovative solutions here in Arizona. Over my career, I've been so fortunate to work with a lot of companies, helping them transform into digital powerhouses that are enabled to embrace the emerging technologies with ease as far as security, compliance, as well as agility. And my motto has always been, my job is to work myself out of a job. So I'm very fortunate.
How's that going?
It's actually, it works really well for the companies. So, but yeah, it's fascinating. I started my career in data. And one of the natural evolutions in my career is to move from data to AI. And how do we do that ethically, responsibly, and without bias? And so I really help companies create the strategies now. And because technology is changing so fast, every day you look, there's some new technology like NVIDIA and Facebook are doing amazing things. And it's going to be a fun ride to see where we are in 5 years, how different life has become. And at the core of everything is data. And that's how I actually got into AI. That's my fascination.
So how does Mercurio AI use data, like with your clients, right, to make them better? Tell us all about that.
So Mercurio helps government agencies create that solid foundation that I've actually employed at a lot of different companies: Nike, Bell Helicopter, Performance Food Group, JDA Software. So it's a proven strategy that I've used at all these companies. Now we're applying it to government agencies to create that single story of an individual so they can meet them where they're at to help that individual reintegrate into society and get the supports that they need, rather than taking a point and fix approach. They're able to look at that person holistically. So an example of that is if you have, let's say, a military veteran who has mental health issues as well as possibly addiction issues, and they're homeless. That person needs different supports than a 17-year-old child that's been kicked out of their home, who just needs shelter. But right now, without the information on these individuals and not knowing who they are, they're pretty much treating them all the same way, which does not really work.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you are using AI to help create and integrate truly individualized approaches to ensure that people have the best outcomes.
Absolutely. And
AI for good.
Yes. And the proof of that is Philadelphia is just like Seattle, Los Angeles, New York, any other major city. What you don't hear about them is about the significant impact that homelessness has. So they were able to address and reduce homelessness by 22% within the first year of implementation, and over 40% consistently year after year over the past 5 years. So when you look at the results, it's all based on data. It's all based on creating that digital twin. It's all based on creating a unified mindset to understand the needs of the individual, rather than commoditizing services and just providing a service just to provide the service.
What I keep hearing is individual,
Exactly.
and you're using AI and data and your analytics to ensure individual success, right? And we are not all the same. How we got in whatever situation we may be in. In this case, a person experiencing homelessness, folks have had different journeys that have brought them to that place. And so they're going to have unique journeys to get to a place where they're just in a healthier position to thrive, right?
Right. Getting to that root cause.
I love this. Well, I could talk about that and for quite some time. But today, you're going to give us a really cool presentation on the state of AI today, because I think it's important for folks to understand AI. You and I had a fantastic conversation on a panel at our Unity Summit about misinformation and disinformation and how all of this information is kind of like interconnected. And so I'm excited for you to walk our viewers and listeners through this presentation so that we all can kind of understand more, and I think in a healthier way, how interconnected everything is.
Yes. Let's go into that.
Dive in.
So with AI, actually just the way the world is today, we have a perfect storm that is still forming.
Okay.
Because as this slide shows, we are in an information overload. There's cognitive bias. There are also emotional needs that we need to address. And there's a lack of media literacy on the personal, internal side. On the external, there's political polarization, social media, technology, and the global crisis. So people are in a state of frenzy, chaos,
I want to say paralysis, right?
Yeah, because you don't know what to think or what to do, because we are being bombarded from every single angle, be it from TV to social media, to ads and this, that, everything. And we've moved into a world where it's opinion-based. And that is information overload for most humans. And even, we're educated, we know. And when we get little pieces of information, that does impact us. So when we're looking at social media to kind of relax, it's actually charging us up.
Yeah.
And if you look at social media companies, their job is to be a people pleaser, to get you to a point that your engagement is optimized. Like they keep you on their platform.
It's like a drug. They want to hook you.
It is a drug.
Yeah.
It is a drug because it's a place that you don't have to think when you go there. You're just being fed all of this information.
Yeah, but see, I disagree. I think you really have to think with social media now, because it's the algorithms and the things that are thrown at you. And I'm like, why am I receiving these things, number one, right? Like, how are these things coming into my feed? And then I think because we're an LGBTQ-based organization, the things that tend to wind up in my feed are about the LGBTQ community. And unfortunately, a lot of times the things that wind up in my feed are really anti-LGBTQ. So I'm thinking a lot on social media, and I find that I have to put it down because there's so much disinformation, right?
How does it make you feel?
Well, it's stressful, right? And so, I, in 2016, started a really good habit that works for me, which is like, I don't watch the news. I read news, because I find that is a better way for me to internalize the information that I'm getting. And then I tend to look at multiple sources. And whatever it is I'm reading, if I see it a couple of times, I'm like, okay, there's some truth in all of this. But I find social media to be a pretty stressful experience for me personally. I don't love it.
No, I agree. I look at it as a form of entertainment, and I equate it to the National Enquirer. Please don't sue me. But I really equate it to the National Enquirer as opposed to the Wall Street Journal or
you take it with a grain of salt.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to, because otherwise you'll go crazy. And when we look at that, the algorithms are actually set to feed you more of what you're looking at. So if you're looking at anti-LGBTQ things,
I get more anti-LGBT.
You get more.
And I just don't know how I got out of rhythm, because I was just looking at videos for puppies and kittens, and now I can't find the puppies and kittens. And if I could find the cat videos, I would be much happier on Facebook. Thank you. Please do. Text them to me.
And so, and where does that all come from? When we look at social media, it's, partly fact that you will have some sources that are are factual.
Right.
But you will also have some that are disinformation, misinformation, as the Secretary of State said, malinformation, as well as speculation. And what does that actually form? It shapes your opinion on the topic that you're looking at, right? It starts shaping your thought process, and as you said, it creates stress. So stress creates a more defensive
Posture.
exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so as that goes on, and over time, you have opinion A, B, and C that enforce the echo chambers to create in-group bias. What does that mean? That you are forming a bias to everything that you're seeing that's anti-LGBTQ, to say, oh my God, there's so much, and I'm going to actually stand my ground, and I'm going to become more vigilant, right? About that. There's also emotional reasoning that goes behind justifying the way that you're posturing yourself.
Sure.
And it becomes almost this reflex action that if anyone says anything to you about LGBTQ being wrong, you're going to be like, oh, no, because you've already thought about it. Yeah. You've already created that opinion in your head that people that are that say anything about LGBTQ that doesn't agree with you, you become very defensive.
So what I'm hearing you is that this is really leading to the polarization.
Yes.
I'm hearing you say that this is leading to the polarization that we're in, right?
Yeah.
And that, and it's really, and that it feels like everything is being boiled down to like there's only two sides.
Exactly.
And there's no complexity to whatever the issue is, right? At least on social media, right? Like you're either with me or you are antagonizing me in some way. And then like I see, it's interesting, there's a business owner that I know well. It's a LGBTQ business owner, and I don't know what's going on, but like it pops up on Facebook, and there's some really interesting discourse, and there's a pile on that goes on, and it's just like, I'm like, man, you got to get out of the ring, like get off of Facebook, right? Like you are in a place where you're I don't think you're going to win. Because it's actually not a place for conversation anymore, is what I think.
Right, because there's no immediate repercussion. It's not in your face. It's only on digital, right? And the dangerous thing about that is that you can just start spewing. Mm-hmm. And people will look at that and say, oh, yeah, they have a great point. And LGBTQ, there are a lot of societies, right? Mm-hmm. or communities. You have the immigrant community. Mm-hmm. You have the a variety of different communities.
And people have passionate views about diverse communities right now.
Exactly. And we are being pigeonholed. And what we have to really look at is what is the agenda behind that? So some people are very passionate that this is the way they believe and this is what's right.
Sure.
And they're being opposed. So now with this polarization and defensive status, now they're going head to head against each other without listening to each other. And it's very difficult to do that on social media because you're not face to face. You're not even having a conversation.
Well, it's keyboard warriors, right? I always notice we introduce legislation, we'll introduce again this year, and I always know we're having a good day when we're being trolled. I'm like, we must be doing something right because there are some very, very mean-spirited comments on our Facebook page today, right?
And they would never say that to your face.
No, I'd bite them in the ankle.
So that's the whole thing, is that there's this interesting confidence that comes up when you're behind
it is keyboard warriors, right? Yeah. Like because you're not accountable for how you act, right? I feel like there's no accountability or responsibility. You can say whatever it is you want to say.
Right.
If someone comes out against you, you can hide them or delete them or whatever. Right. And so it is really an echo chamber, to your point, right? And everybody that is in my circle is agreeing with me. And then to your point of the bias, I think we walk into society with the misinformation that everyone agrees with me, whatever the issue is, right?
And you've got your misinformation, battle suit on,
yeah,
and you're like, yes, but, and what that really leads to is sharing without verification, and justifying deception of the misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, because now you're emotionally connected to this. and you have your own agenda that's being created.
And no one likes to be told that they're wrong, right?
Exactly.
So what you're saying is this becomes personal.
Yep.
And so I feel like you're telling me we dig in more, right?
Yep. Because you're emotionally connected to this. And that creates that hostility to other groups, which then leads to further misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. And so there are a few people that are critical thinkers that will go out and say, okay, I saw this on social media. Let me go find out if it's actually true. And they will do their research. They will go to various trusted sources to find out what's the truth. And really going to the source is the most important thing. Finding out. I saw something the other day that just seemed outlandish. And of course, on all these weird websites, yes, it was true. But then they came out with it on Wall Street Journal. No, it's not. Here's the whole video. This is what they said.
Yeah. And
okay, now I understand. But it's being open and taking that accountability for your own thoughts rather than having someone else control what you're going to think.
And spreading the misinformation
Exactly.
and kind of like adding fuel to the fire of the misinformation.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And we're seeing that social media, tech companies are really determining what people are talking about on a regular basis. So if you think about just the past couple months, we've had UAPs that are now gone. We've talked about Diddy, which is pretty much out. And now we're on, what are we on now? We're on something, LA fires. And some people are saying there's no LA fire. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how can this be? How can people actually believe that this is fake news, right? And there are people out there that don't believe that LA is burning.
I did see that, there's things on social media about like they didn't, or not having enough water or something. And I read an article that folks are really piling on to the mayor of LA, but also that it's a ton of misinformation and disinformation, but there's such a pile on. It's like you don't know how to get, I think it's difficult, in particular for an elected official, to kind of swim through it in a situation like the LA fires, where they're in the midst of a tragedy, right? Like the time that she has is not necessarily to deal with what's going on in social media. It's about attending to the emergency and the people that she is elected to serve, right? It's
and I know exactly where those fires are. I used to live in Woodland Hills. My ex-brother-in-law still lives in California, in Los Angeles, and he sent me pictures and he's like, this is crazy. And it's a very sad thing, and for people to dismiss it like it's nothing. People have lost their homes and they've lost everything that they've worked for.
Some people have lost their lives, right?
Exactly. And to dismiss it and say, oh, this is not really that big of a deal. I'm like, where's your empathy? So also this whole misinformation, disinformation kind of creates this, what's the word?
Like, are we getting numb to reality?
Yes.
Right?
We are becoming numb because it's almost like we're watching a movie going, these aren't real people. It's
interesting that you say this about a movie. I read an article. I don't remember the source, but I will try and find it and send it to you because I think it was a really fascinating article. And it really talked about like we're kind of living in like a world that is like the wrestling, right? Mm-hmm. Where some of it's true, some of it's theatrics, and it's all kind of blended together, and it's difficult for people to see what is theatrics and political theater and what is actually truth. And then all of these things have been woven into the narrative, and it can be difficult for people to actually, I think, use critical thinking skills to get through the noise, right?
It is the noise, because how do you do that when you're overloaded with information?
You shut down.
You can't do anything but shut down because it's too much. I know people that watch Fox News 24/7, or CNN 24/7, and having a rational discussion with them is next to impossible.
Well, it's an information loop, and it's just like kind of it's imprinting. I'm reading this really interesting book called Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend, which was recommended to me. Shout out to Bettina Nava. Thank you for recommending the good read, or the good listen in this case. But it really talks about these imprints that happen in your brain and like how we create habits and habit stacking. And I feel like there's a lot of habit stacking going on with misinformation and disinformation with all of these social media channels, right? So it seems like, and with the algorithm, so like wherever you go, it seems like, I mean, I was looking at something to purchase, and all of a sudden it shows up on Facebook, and then it's on all the social media. So it's like it's difficult to escape it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Even when you talk about it, it just shows up on your feed all of a sudden.
I'm so glad they're not listening.
I've given up on that. I've given up on my privacy. I'm like, I don't care at this point. If I put it out there, then great. So
we should all figure that we're on the record at all times.
Yeah, I'm going to start talking about winning the lottery. So maybe it'll give me the numbers.
I like it. Okay.
So have it work in my favor. But all of that leads to speculation, which is a mix of what you were talking about, truth and fact, or misinformation as well as fact merged together. So now you're trying to filter out what is it. So we're just speculating, I personally have been loving watching the UAPs going, the aliens are coming. I'm like, okay, aliens are coming. What are we going to do? I'm just going to sit on the sidelines and say, okay, let's see what happens tomorrow. But that leads us to this, understanding the business of today's media. You are their source of revenue. So their goal is to increase engagement, influence your thinking, whatever it is. And we know that there are some tech companies or media companies that are right-wing, left-wing, and there's someone in the center. I haven't watched PBS lately, so I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know where PBS is at. Yeah. How do you feel about Meta just saying we're going to get rid of the fact checkers?
You know what? I actually like that, and I know that's not a popular opinion, but what that means is you don't know which way the fact checkers are leaning, and to me, I don't like being told what to think. I like saying, okay.
You like being presented with all of the different storylines and then you deciding.
Yes, because we're intelligent.
Yeah.
We are intelligent human beings. And being told and being fed propaganda, which a lot of it is propaganda, you are intelligent enough to say, this is actually true and this makes sense because I know this. And going to the flat earth theory, I know that aerospace engineers and rocket scientists actually do the mathematics on the curvature of the earth. Right.
Yeah. But you worked for NASA, didn't you?
I worked for Orbital Sciences, and I did do some security work for NASA.
So you know that there is a curve. I just want to make sure.
There is a curve. I watch these guys. And so when you look at the information that flat earthers have, and I believe that they actually believe that it's true, they give some really great evidence to say, look out the window. Do you see a curvature of the earth? And I'm like, I don't see it, but okay, maybe whatever. But then I also have to think about, do I even care? Is this something I care about?
So choose your battles is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So really focusing on what is it that you care about? Because there are so many people with so many opinions on so many different things. That adds to the information overload. And so when we look at corporate algorithms, they are also people pleasers. And they, as we talked about before, they're giving you topics to talk about today to stay relevant. And when we look at regulations are always going to be way behind, and the technology is moving so quickly. There is no way for regulation
to catch up right now.
Yeah, there's no way, because the moment they put something in place, there's going to be one group that says, no, that's not fair. And it just keeps going into this roundabout battle.
Do you think that AI should be regulated?
Well, so we're in a very interesting time. I don't know if you saw that President Biden just signed an agreement with 18 other countries for the AI Chip Act.
Mm-hmm.
So what that did was exclude Russia and China
from getting like the fastest NVIDIA and AMD chips.
Yes,
and things
they're
like
not
that,
even
right?
allowed to purchase anything from these countries. India is not in this. And when you think about China and India, that's where a lot of this technology is also coming from. They're huge in developing these chips and developing the algorithms. And so when we start creating these borders or drawing lines in the sand that you shall not do this, now you're going to put a bunch of other people together, create coalitions to battle our AI chips. And
so they might be bad actors that are coming together.
yeah, because, when you think of China, Russia, Iran, they're not dumb people. They're smart. And they have a different way of thinking than us, right? So now we're going to actually see the battle of the bots on a global level. And that scares me, right?
So you're not sure that AI should be regulated, is what I'm hearing you say. Yeah, or maybe that there's pros and cons to both sides, or all viewpoints, right?
Right, because we have a lot of regulations in place. If we anthropomorphize AI, so treat it like a person,
Okay.
We have PCI, we have PII, we have HIPAA, we have a lot of regulations in place that you can actually put onto AI to say this AI should not violate HIPAA. Right? So that already exists. So if we leverage the regulations that are in place today
in the correct way, you
yes.
think we may have what
absolutely,
we need? Okay.
Absolutely. Because when we say AI needs regulation, that means we don't have to pay attention to these other regulations. Because now you're specifically saying AI needs its own regulation. Well, no, leverage what you have and work with that.
So you're saying AI needs to be in line with existing regulation. It doesn't need its
Absolutely.
own separate regulation.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating. And I hear you say HIPAA. In my healthcare provider just sent out a survey asking their patients in their network how comfortable they would be with AI being incorporated into the services they provide from a medical standpoint. And yeah, I was open and wanted like human interaction with AI, right? So I wanted them to kind of check one another, but I wasn't opposed. That's where I was at earlier today when I was filling out the survey.
Yeah, I think that the benefits that we're going to get out of leveraging AI in our daily lives, where we're going to be, is going to be amazing. The medical breakthroughs that we will start seeing, even from a pharmacology standpoint, you've got your DNA, you've got pharmaceuticals. How does that medicine actually interact with your body? Again, individualizing it.
So individual medical, opportunities.
Absolutely.
And treating people holistically, right? And
right.
Yeah.
So we'll see the lawsuits come down. When you see a drug that says, okay, you might die from this, or you might have breathing problems, or this, that. That should be coming down because it will know based on your DNA what's that reaction,
how you're going to react.
Exactly. And so if you have one drug and another drug together, how is that going to interact with your body, with your chemistry? And it'll become personalized medicine. That's what I
love it.
Super excited about.
I'm excited. I had a health journey in 2023, and before you and I got together for this awesome conversation, by the way, thank you, Minky. I was with some folks with the American Cancer Association, and I said I'm very open to sharing my story, and I talked about how I just really thought that your mental well-being and like where your attitude was at really positively, in my case, really positively impacted my outcome because. We knew that we were going to be on the other side of this, and I was going to come out. We were adamant I was going to come out of very healthy, and I did, right? And I had a remarkable healthcare team, but they really said attitude is 95% of this, right?
Yeah.
And while I was receiving, my medical protocols, there were other people that were receiving medical protocols that I'm sure were a bit different, right? Because we are different people, but to individualize even more so that you're doing everything you can to ensure just the best outcomes, I think would be so transformative for folks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know there are some medications out there. I know a family that had their children on Lexapro, and I think 20 years old, 21 years old. And they looked at the side effects, and it didn't seem that bad. What they went on to find out is that when their child drank, that child became like a monster. And when you look at Lexapro with alcohol in a person's body, it creates a psychosis.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's not readily available. But if you have an AI to tell you, look, you don't want to do this because this is the lifestyle, this is the drug. Oh, by the way, this is going to create a huge problem for you. It makes the user or the consumer
more informed.
Absolutely. And that's where we're going to get to. And I'm so excited, and if you haven't seen that Chefy, I know this is a horrible plug, but I saw the Chefy thing. It's a Chefy robot. And it is a robot that makes your food. You don't have to chop anything.
Wow.
It's this cool thing. And I'm so excited about
We
this.
might need this. We're not the best.
This.
Sherry and I keep talking about we need to really get more into cooking, but maybe what we really need is a chefy.
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay.
I'm so excited about robotics, AI, and things like that happening in the world. Okay, on this slide, these are just some of the things that I've come in to help understand how to deal with this crazy chaos that we're in,
Okay.
right? And the message really here is that you are your best advocate. There's no one that should be telling you, look, you should not be wearing that sweatshirt today, right?
Okay.
I would be like, yeah, I'm going to wear it anyway. So do the same thing with your thinking and your opinions. And it's you that gets to decide what you think and how you see the world, because it is very easy right now to go into a depression with everything that we're seeing, the fires with Gaza, with human rights. You just sit there and go, oh my gosh,
It's easy to be overwhelmed right now.
It is. And it's easy to get into that. We're not a great species, right? It's easy to get into that with all of the hate that we see. And let's face it, there are not a lot of people that want to see the good, right? When you watch the news, you don't want to see, oh, look how sweet that is and things like that. We get excited by nature, by tell me what's happening. What do I have to prepare for? It's that flight or fight mode, right? And it engages on that. So when we look at this and say, you get to decide how you see the world, and again, going back to that one person is doing something bad, but there are 99 other people that are doing something
Concentrate
good.
on them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm hearing that this is very much about us as individuals and our own individual path and how we choose to receive information. Again, going back to I stopped watching the news, many, many years ago, and it was really healthy for me, right?
It's great mental health.
It's super, it's great. And so, I think we are definitely very aware how the news or social media impacts us. And when I was on my health journey, we were adamant that I did not want to watch any type of show where it had death or dying in it or just blood. And I have to tell you, it was really difficult to find good programming. But
absolutely,
God bless reality TV.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. But I have to agree with you, because even regular programs, CSI, anything
it's just constant.
I have started watching. This is going to be really funny. The Love Boat from back in the 70s or Golden Girls, because
I love
it. It's entertaining, it's funny, and you don't have to really think about it because there's no political agenda there.
Yeah.
And it was a simpler time, and working from home, I like to have the noise of people talking in the background. What I don't want to hear is everything that's going bad in the world or thinking like that. So watching those old shows, fantastic. It's great background noise for me.
I love it. So you've got the Golden Girls playing when you're working?
I do. Blanche is hilarious.
That could be some secret sauce there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this. What role do you see AI? I think you kind of told us where you think it's going in the next 5 years. It's about healthcare. It's about everything, right? Is this limitless? Do we have an idea of how this is the opportunities it's gonna bring to us in the next 5 to 10 years? Or is it evolving so quickly that it's just even hard for us to imagine what this is gonna look like in 5 or 10 years?
So somebody asked me the other day, they said I was an AI expert, and I corrected them. I said, no, I'm not. I'm an AI enthusiast, because I have not been working on what the tech companies have been working on since the 1990s on AI, right? So when we look at what Google has done with quantum, I forgot what the name of that they've given it, we can't even fathom what they're working on.
Right.
And we are all watching what Meta, Google, Microsoft are working on, but they haven't released it yet. And we are going to watch the total transformation of humanity and the way we live and the way we behave and everything like that. And it's going to be fascinating. We are in that transitional period. We are in an information revolution. And Meta and Google have already started creating the lines of truth. So when you were asking about fact checking, they're actually creating that history of where did this start from. So I'm not worried about fact checkers, and I don't think that we can even understand where we'll be. So if you think back to the Industrial Revolution,
Yep.
we could not fathom a plane flying across the Atlantic, and that's where we are right now, driving a car, having a car that's autonomous, I have no idea, and it's again going back to I can speculate, but I have no idea.
Because what I hear you saying is you have companies like Google, and we work closely with Waymo, and we love Waymo, and it's a great ride.
It's fantastic.
It's awesome.
It's amazing. They know when you don't have your seatbelt on.
Yeah,
there's
no,
somebody watching.
it's like it's amazing, right? The Waymo gods. But what I hear you saying is the Googles and the Nvidias and the Metas of this world and the Apples of this world are so deeply into this research period around how to use AI, that it is really difficult for us to even imagine what's to come.
Absolutely. So I just heard Mark Zuckerberg talking about the glasses, how reality and digital will actually merge. So you wear the glasses and it's a virtual reality world. You're seeing everything like it is, but I will see information about you, or I'll see information about what I'm talking about, or this light, or whatever. As you're walking down the street, it's going to be integrated. So
these are the types of things we've seen in sci-fi movies for years, but now this is going to be our reality.
Exactly. And if I were to speculate, I'd be like, we're living in the world of Jetsons. That's where we're going, and which is kind of exciting for me, because they had Sheffy on the Jetsons, and I'm like, yeah, that's great.
All right, so we're all in for Sheffy. Minky, anything else you want to add?
No, thank you so much for having me.
This was just a joy, and you are welcome back anytime. And we should do check-ins as major breakthroughs keep happening, so we just continue the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.